Hello, everybody. My name's Milan Starcic. Welcome to Freedom Rising, a podcast dedicated to empowering individuals on the journey to personal growth, lasting serenity, and freedom from addiction. Tune in and join the movement. Your journey to freedom starts here. We neither represent, promote, or demote any 12-step program or organization. We are merely souls on the path of recovery with the desire to expand our lives and experiences and share them with you. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Welcome to the 94th Recovery Freedom Rising podcast. I'm Milan Starcic with co-hosts Shannon B and Bryant W. Today's topic is service. Shannon, would you please share what this means to you and why you're happy to discuss this here today?
Sure. Yeah, so service for me is really giving back in our fellowship, right? And just giving back in all areas of my life. I'm so blessed to have the life that I do today and to be free from, the restraints of drugs and alcohol and living a God-centered life. When I'm, working my program, I'm definitely sponsoring and taking other women through the steps. I'm also active in my home group, right? Like if I get asked to speak or share my story, every time I can, I do so. And that's a real gift too, because I know what it was like to be sitting in a treatment center, not sure how things are going to go and scared. And people that spoke and shared with me really beautifully impacted that too. So in that sense, and then also just showing up for my loved ones, saying yes and doing things to help others without the expectation of something being done in return for myself. And it feels really good to live that life.
Nice.
I
So
love that.
to the best of my ability.
And you, Mr. Bryant, would you like to share what service means to you and why you're happy to discuss that here today?
I shall. Good to see both of you again. I think it's really important and nice, kind of invaluable portion of the process. What came to mind when I was coming forward to do this was, I think one of the most influential and probably important aspects of the path I went on was the sponsorship side of things, the necessity now that I can look back on how that basically I think was the difference between success and probably like the old pattern of like desperation, willingness, but like not having the right guidance. I pay a lot of respect and I attribute a lot of my well-being to the person that took time out of their life to do what is recommended, which is to help another person when the time comes. That gentleman to this day is like incredibly valuable to me. And I didn't have the courage to, like, I truly didn't believe that I was in a spot or that I had like become someone who was going to be able to do what he did with me. I thought that was going to take like years and years and years. And he promoted the as soon as possible within reason. Like you have to, I think, have had the process unfold to the extent that you actually are somebody that can give this message to someone else. But he sort of prompted me to do it as soon as possible. And it's been one of the most beautiful parts of this whole process is the sitting down with another person and going through this process with them. And then again, too, like the structure of the program in general is like literally based on and relies on people being a little selfless and giving back to the whole thing. So like the individual and then the whole, I think it just is a perfect way to see the wisdom in the process. Yeah.
That was beautiful. I think you guys would both be great sponsors. If I was looking for a new one, I'd ask for co-sponsorship from both y'all. We just meet here Saturday mornings and do our step group. Yeah, man. I kind of always have said service starts at home. Like it's not just about the program. I think one of the biggest things is getting out of our selfishness and our self-centeredness. And, and in moments of service, that is truly when I can say that I'm actually like not thinking about myself and I'm thinking about them. And, and man, the further I get into this and the more I listen to some of the speakers who've had 30, 40, whatever years. And not that the years mean something, but their wisdom means something to me. And I see that it's like really it is about seeing how you can help another person in your day and
Hmm.
how you can serve like that becomes their primary purpose for real and not just in words and and sure enough those people are still straight and they're
Yeah.
experiencing reasonable contentment in their life and actually, and some of them are, quite a bit older and they're like, I don't know anybody anything. Like it's been a good life. Like they're content whether they're continuing or not, which is that's a big transition in life too. So yeah, I think I'm gonna leave it there and maybe Shannon, do you want to ask Bryant the first question and we'll go around like that?
Sure. So I'll also bring in a little bit of the other topic that we had kind of chatted about, and for our listeners,
Woo!
Mm.
that's compassion.
Yeah.
So, Brian, I find that there's real fine line between showing compassion for a sponsee and also holding them accountable. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I have definitely over the years maybe been a little too compassionate at times. Maybe not, that's not the right way, but um sometimes you have to come at it like with this is a life or death matter, you know?
Yeah.
The work isn't optional if you want to recover. Um,
Hmm.
and when someone's not ready, it can be frustrating and kind of tough sometimes. So how do you like walk that line with showing compassion and being gentle and understanding what it's like to, be full of fear, but at the same time being assertive and holding your sponsees accountable because you know that old saying, you baby an addict, you'll bury an addict.
Mm.
So how do you kind of maneuver that in your sponsorship?
That's a really good question. So what the beauty of what I think what comes to mind for me is one of the greatest gifts I received was that I learned to trust myself again. And so yes, a lot of interesting things came forward when you asked the question. And the first thing is that if we fundamentally understand the seriousness of this for ourselves, that that will be fundamental to how we bring the message forward. So there's three things. So there's the trusting myself. I know myself well enough that I can only speak for myself, but I would say that I just trust that the compassion will be there because I have that fundamentally in me. It will shine through regardless of how I'm delivering the message. Just that's just who I am. But so I trust that about myself. But I also I would add to that that this is probably the most assertive I've ever been in my life with anything. If I'm helping somebody in this process, there's a natural assertiveness that comes with it because we know how serious it is. So when I typically come at it so that the person trusts me in a way that the love and the compassion and like the ease is hopefully there. But the minute you start getting out of that like zone that we know fundamentally needs to be there in order to succeed, of course, there's always going to be uniqueness. There's going to be the person and like their schedule and all these different things. But like when you really break it down, it's very obvious when someone's doing what's necessary. And in those cases, I don't bring compassion to those places. I speak with assertiveness and I tell somebody, I don't believe you're doing what's necessary. I'm worried about you and or I'm not willing to work with you unless you continue to do this and that. I don't care if it hurts their feelings because for me, if I'm completely honest, the feelings are going to be hurt way more if they don't do the work. And it won't be because of me or anything else. It'll be because of the fact that this person's living in addiction and or alcoholism and the consequences are serious. So I don't mind being a little more assertive to emphasize that point. But yeah, I believe the compassion naturally exists because without it, we don't find um, the trust in the other person and the process as well. So hopefully, and everybody's different, but for myself, I trust that the love and compassion exists within the seriousness of the situation. That's what came to mind.
Really well said.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And could you please repeat the question, Shannon? I got lost in his answer.
Um, I said that there's, a fine line between compassion and assertiveness when it comes to working with a sponsee and taking somebody through the steps. How do you maneuver that line so that you're remembering what it's like to be where they're at, but at the same time stressing the importance of the work and how this really is a life or death matter?
So I think that this is something that I've made some mistakes on.
Mm.
And because my current life load, I just started putting my hand up again for new sponsees at different things, and so I took a pause. So it's kind of funny because I feel like once you kind of make a mistake with someone, it's really hard to course correct. Like if you weren't cracking the whip at a timeline with them, and then you want to try implementing that, it's way harder than if you just start with a regimented thing. Like it, because that's kind of inconsistent to them, and so it's really funny that you asked this question because I'm literally currently struggling with this with someone.
Nice.
Like I'm totally baffled at how to motivate this person with niceness involved still, and with compassion, because I've tried every turn of phrase, I've tried every request that I feel like, and and then and to me, I've also presented it with the danger element. Like I've also said, like if you aren't going to complete this, there's a good chance that it it's going to suck you backwards.
Mm,
And so right now, I'm just interested actually to hear what both of you guys got to say, because I sucked at this right now. I feel like,
mm.
and that's okay. I mean, it's all a learning process. So let
Yeah.
me know how you deal with that, Shannon, because I think both of you guys would be great sponsors.
Thanks, Milan. Um, I've experienced that too, right? Like we're human and you want it so bad for someone, right? Because we know what it's like to have that freedom and to be living in the solution. But what I've learned is I can't want someone to recover more than they want to.
Oh
And
yeah.
if I'm doing what I can, to the best of my ability with my higher power leading, and it's just like trying to push a rope, then that's a
Push a
sign,
rope is a good one. Sorry.
that's a sign to me from God that it might be necessary to move on because my efforts could be better utilized with someone who's more willing.
Yeah.
Um, we, you think about it, nobody here stopped drinking or using drugs for their loved ones. And if that's not a reason to do it, right? How is it another addict? Just because
Right.
we understand and that we have a message of depth and weight, it doesn't mean that that's going to be enough for somebody to clue in and get it. You have a question?
Do you actually give them then like some sort of ultimatum? Like say if we're not going to move forward, I'm not interested in continuing with this, and explain to me, like pretend I'm them and say that to me, because I would love some advice here.
Yeah, I pretty much. Yeah, I would say, you know, I I want to work with you. I want to see you, recover. I want to see you living in the solution and experience the same freedom that I have. But it's obvious to me that you're not ready right now. You're not willing to do whatever it takes. And I can be here for you when you are. But right
Yeah.
now, we're wasting each other's time.
Definitely. Always remain there for them when the readiness is available.
Because it was told to me before too that you might harm an opportunity for them later. Like if I push someone too hard and they're just like, this ain't it right now,
Mm.
then if we walk away and maybe they experience it a little bit without that guidance, they may be more ready later on, right? And be like, okay, you know what? I understood what he was saying now. I'm going to call Milan, or I'm going to get back. I'm
Yeah.
going to get into a meeting and get another sponsor. Like, it's no reflection of you, right? It's just, like that saying, I say, you can tell an addict anything, but you can't tell them much, right? Like, you can't do the work for them, and you can't pressure them. You can't pressure us. Right? It ultimately has to be my idea for something to truly work for me when it comes to recovery. Like, I
Sure.
have to want that fundamentally deep inside. So yeah, hopefully that helps. And it's just, you're taking on frustration, and it's like you always talk about surrender. You have
Yeah.
to surrender that this just is not the time.
Well, and that's the thing is that, you know, I feel like I'm I'm totally not pushing them. Like that's the thing is that I don't want to turn them off future recovery,
Yeah.
but I definitely want him to finish what he's starting. You
That's
know,
fair.
like
That's
and
totally fair.
like a strangest thing. I'm going to tell you. No, I can't tell you, but I'll tell you off. Like anyway, this is crazy, but it's driving me crazy. But either way, I'm not going to say it here. It's not
Yeah,
the right
yeah.
format.
Fair
Yeah,
enough.
we
We
can
have
talk, we
we
can
have
talk off the
yeah.
podcast about that. But I've been there, and then I'm like asking myself, like, you know, did I do enough? Da 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 da. But
Well,
it's not for us, right? Like, how many times, you guys, have you started things in life and not finished them, right?
yeah,
Like, the million ways I try to manage this thing without surrendering that there's
exactly.
no way to manage it, right? Like, I just use an example, but still, like, I can remember it like yesterday. I was like, I'm going to start working out, and once I start working out diligently, then I'm going to be healthier and happier, and I just won't be drinking as much. So then I drive to the store, and this is gonna age me. I buy all the DVDs, that are what I think I'm gonna be doing. And it's not like an entryway, like, oh, I'm just gonna start with like 15, 20 minutes. It's like I'm doing a full hour, weightlifting and aerobics. And
Sure,
I buy all these DVDs, and I still remember donating them, having not cracked one of them. Or maybe cracked one of them, done it once, and then
sure.
taken 6 months off, right? Because I just wasn't ready to commit to that.
Well,
Yeah.
I would add two things. It's well, it has its own nature. Like the solution has its nature, and we know how the benefit continually comes as we process through those steps, and the experiential kind of like feedback we get. And that's the same feedback that exists when you don't latch onto the solution. You're going to get the same feedback. You're going to feel like you want to die. You're going to have horrible mental and physical problems. You're going to watch your job go. Like these are the motivating factors. They're the beauty of this whole thing is it will never come down to us. If we're available for someone else, then the solution has a chance, and we've done our part. Anything further is actually like ego, in my opinion. Like there's a certain level. I swear to God, this stuff gets gnarly. Like the the fact is, like, that person will get whatever they need to be motivated to do or not do, and that unfortunately is very hard to watch. But we know the statistics. I don't like bringing that part up because it's actually pretty scary.
But you're absolutely right. And like when you say the ego too, because I'm sure we've all experienced it,
Yeah,
people in the rooms that collect how many sponsees they have or how many people they've taken through the steps, like their badges of honor, right? And
sure,
we're selflessly doing this. It's just continuing work, right?
totally.
No
But even
matter.
that, sorry, go ahead.
No, no, please.
I was just gonna say, even that like emphasis on like if I don't get them here or there, it's like it's not about you. It's not. You just have to be available. That that's the only thing. It's like we're willing to go to any length, and if that person doesn't meet us there, they don't understand that yet. And the funny thing is, we're not asking for like we're talking about a change in attitude and perception and willingness to like show up somewhere. So like I don't know about you guys, but we're talking about like going to a meeting or like reading a book or like meeting me in a park to read a book. Like if you can't do that, we are done.
Yes, when you say it like that, that's so true, right? And I
Like,
fell into that trap too, Milan, like years back, right? Like I would hear someone say, "Oh, I sponsored this girl and it was just couldn't get anywhere with her," and so on and so forth. And it was
yeah.
like, and she'd come to me and I'd be like, "I'll take the toughest cases," and it was pure ego in my head. Like,
That's
you know,
hilarious.
like I can somehow deliver this message differently.
Send her to me.
All right, I'll scrub in on this one.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it was totally ego. And then I learned the hard way why
That's
it has
actually
been that
so funny.
pattern, and that I wasn't
Shannon's anatomy.
this
I'll
sensei or whatever.
When Shannon gets super honest, it's the best.
Surgical Shannon
And I
anatomy.
remember thinking in my head, oh, well, I'll have to take the toughest cases. Too.
I can totally see you doing that so much, so clearly.
Like we're all like surgeons, and suddenly I'm the specialist that's done nothing different than anybody else, but
Yeah.
I'll deliver the message differently.
No one else can do it. I guess the delivery of the person that guides you can be really helpful too, because my dude was not playing around. Like, it was awesome. It was so wild that I was like, I think it's a miracle almost that it worked, because like I'd say twice a week I was like, this is insane. Like, I don't know about this guy. Like, I was always being like, this can't be real, and it worked. Thank God.
It can't be real. I love it.
Yeah, it was awesome.
I think I kind of answered my own question too.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure, but I think this has been fabulous so far. Like fabulous. Like I
Really good.
have gleaned a lot from this. And
As long as you guys have taken away from this right now that when you're in your rooms in your respective cities and there's a woman that, just can't get it, remember who takes the toughest cases. And I'm willing to virtually sponsor too. Okay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, let that know.
you're like Columbo.
No,
Perry
now I'm
Mason.
so far away from that person that I was that I'd be like, no, like tell her to call me. Maybe that's it. But
When in doubt, call
You know what
Shannon.
though? Let's at least open the fact that maybe you could help one of the toughest cases.
and we all can.
You know what? Like some
But I
people
think
have
that
strengths. Like some people
really,
are wonderful motivators.
Yeah.
really, it's just sometimes it's what somebody says that cracks that, right?
Yeah.
Like for me, the first person I ever worked with, step work, was in my first treatment center. And it was that cut and dry. Like it was literally, so you think you're the only woman who's X, Y, and Z? Like
Sure.
it was a tougher message, and it was a lot of ego shattering, but I needed that. I need somebody to look at me and be like, let's cut the shit here and get honest. Sorry if I like swore, but
No.
it was the truth. Like I needed that tough love approach. I sometimes need people that are like, I care more about your life than I do your feelings.
I'm certain that's important. Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I saw, like all these old timers saying over and over again. They're like, I'm not concerned about your feelings. I'm concerned about your safety.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And that safety is to not be drinking or doing drugs, depending on whether the person was AA or any. But that's regardless. It's that they're just like, if you feel that kind of love is too tough, then they're like, I'm not your person. Like,
Oh man.
I'm more concerned with your survival than your feelings. Because
Absolutely.
you, like right now, your feelings aren't even calibrated before you get through these steps anyway. Like you're going to have all this defensive, delusional shit happen regardless of what I say.
And
Absolutely.
that's where that line comes, right? Like I know that if I was to call either of you and I was struggling, right? And being brutally honest with you, I know that
Yeah.
you say, you know what, Shan, I've been there. Like I felt those feelings too. But the reality of the matter is if you don't course correct here and start doing some work, your mind's going to lead you right there. And Y
Absolutely.
and Z. Right. And for me, like what helps now, and it's not an advocate for relapse by any means. It's just, it's still so foreign to me that I went out at 7 years. But when somebody's talking to me, I'm like, I used to think that wouldn't apply to me. Like there
Of
was no
course.
way.
Yeah.
But my ego led me right back, and
It
like it's
will.
real, so I can still very clearly, remember what it was like and now what I am living. So
Nobody's immune to that possibility, by the way. Like it's
I
it's
just I just thought there was no way. I had no desire, right? I thought that if I didn't have the desire, it wasn't going to happen. But guess what?
yeah,
My disease is way stronger than a desire and plants things so strangely, that you
of
don't even
course.
tie them together until suddenly you're drinking a bottle going, thanks for the advice. Like,
Hey,
thanks for the last 6 years, guys, I'm out.
And when you guys worked with your sponsors, like I remember, I mean, I'm a little bit fresher onto the scene of like my first time working with a sponsor, but I remember having to check myself and being like, is this a delusion? Is this a resistance to what he's saying? Or is that just not for me? Like, and because I truly think that having had one sponsor and now being on to another sponsor, that sometimes there is an incompatibility, you know,
100%,
like, and like,
100%.
like, and, but that's a really tough thing to judge when you're freshly out of addiction, when you're delusional in your brain, when you can't trust yourself. And then all of a
yeah,
sudden you're like, this is life or death. I'm trusting my instinct. Like, it's a,
Uh,
it's
I
a
well,
could
really
I
weird
could
time.
blow your mind. We'll have this conversation one day and I'll tell you about the first sponsor I worked with, my first time I went into a meeting. And I was so fresh. I had no idea what a sponsor-sponsee relationship was like. And I was just told this is who I was going to be working with. And again, right? Like you're in a vulnerable state. So there's still sick people in the rooms, even if they have time, right? And even if they can take someone through the steps. So I think, like Brian said, as soon as you can start to trust yourself, you just still trust your instinct, right? Like I
no
had
human
no
power.
instinct in a lot of situations that I put myself in where I was like, I shouldn't be doing this, right? But I did it anyways. So when my instinct tells me something isn't right, working with
Absolutely.
someone or a sponsor I've had, or just even interactions in the room. I just trust that because I believe that's God telling me this isn't for you.
Yeah.
I feel like right for a while, right in my early recovery, I feel like I couldn't even trust that. Like I had built up such ironclad delusions that it was like months and months and months after for me that like for my own experience where I was like, okay, let's like step for every feeling I'm having, you know? And it was really cool. The speaker I listened to this week, this guy does like principal inventories, like all kinds of different tradition inventories on himself, like all these different inventory layers. And one of the coolest things, and I'm just going to get off topic for a second, that I was super fascinated by, was he was talking about dispelling the lies that we tell ourselves. So like one of the lies for him was just like, if you knew me, who I really was, you wouldn't like me. And that was
Yeah.
something that he carried around his whole life. But that really boils down to selfishness. And because what happens is that any person who comes to interact with you is filtered through that. So no matter what they're saying, you're like got turbid water for interpreting their message, no matter what it is. And so you're not giving them their chance to actually, hey, maybe be of service to you or just be the pure people they are without you already rejecting their actions or filtering it negatively. Like, I mean, you can take an inflection off a sentence and make a good sentence bad. I was just fascinated by the way he broke that down, and that he does that kind of thing. Like it makes me think, I'd like to do like a "What am I lying to me about?" inventory. You
Yeah.
know, like
Well,
because I think there's some really old ones, that are sitting deep inside there.
the
One thing,
self-critic.
Yeah,
mm, one
yeah,
thing I've learned as like in a recent situation too with sponsoring that I'm going to highlight more when I start working with someone new. Like I think I've mentioned before on the podcast, like I usually sit down with the woman who wants to work with me first and kind of explain what the sponsor-sponsee relationship is. And I show them where that's at in the book and like what that will look like, and say, like, I want you to be committed. These are my expectations, so that it's clear cut. But I
Yeah.
think that where I miss it sometimes is there's a level of like excitement and you're like, yeah, because you see these lights on in someone and they're really
Yeah.
willing. But then as the time progresses, they tend to fall off a little bit. And I've been a little too lenient and okay, you can't meet at this time. That's fine. We'll reschedule for this. And then, I'm not holding them accountable. I'm not holding myself accountable as a sponsor to really say we have to meet. Like this is a non-negotiable. So I am going to be a bit more clear and hold myself to an even higher standard. I don't know what it's like to sponsor, like to be a man sponsoring a man, right? But I know what it's like working with women. And, there has to be sometimes more of a softer approach, but
No question.
also with like, because like I've done, big book studies and stuff and heard women say, I couldn't work with somebody who was just too boom, boom, boom in my face and, hard and fast lines. Like I need somebody who's going to show me some grace. So
Absolutely.
but that naturally comes out in me. And I love how you said that, Brian. Like I trust myself. So I trust that part of me shows
Yes.
regardless of how I'm delivering the message. But it really is that accountability. And it needs to be a shorter string for me. Like, hey, we make commitments. I'm going to commit to you. You need to commit to me. And that's not saying that sometimes things don't come up. I get it. But
Yeah,
when
exactly.
this is being pushed out now 3 weeks or whatever amount of weeks, and I find that too when I'm doing step 4s with sponsees, right? Like try to break it down for the columns and the work.
Sure.
And I've been doing it differently. Like, okay, we're going to check in and do your resentments. Then we're going to do your fears. Then we're going to do this, because asking them to do all that work and then circle back, they sit in it, right? Or
I
they just do
agree
it.
on that one. That's a great idea. I like
That's
that
what I
idea.
did.
And I've also done it the way that like a phenomenal sponsor I had did it. And the only reason why I don't work with her anymore, she moved away, is she's like, I'm doing your 4 with you right now. We're sitting down and we're going through this
Ooh,
in real time so that you don't have any time to take that home. And
That's
and I've
wild.
done it that way and it's been cool. So there's more than one way to skin a cat as long as the work's getting done.
question on that one though. Do you
Yeah.
not feel that people would maybe not write some shit down right in front of you that they might write down when you're not there that bring back to the table?
Well,
Like it
that's
might
the
not be.
thing. It's not like it's if something else comes up, then we're
Yeah.
gonna go through that. But where I found that works is with people who've already done a set of steps and they're doing
Okay.
step
Mhm.
1, right?
Okay.
Like
Yeah.
when I did it that way first with her,
Mm,
I was doing another set of steps.
okay.
So it was
That's
like, let's
cool.
just get the work done. But I've done resentments recently with somebody sitting in
Mm,
front of me, and it was so powerful and it was so great because we're talking. So it's like
yeah.
it's triggering their mind rather than someone going home sometimes and going, okay, I need to do my resentments. And then they're like, ugh, I'm gonna go get a snack, or I'll do this tomorrow. And then it just keeps getting pushed out, and then they're sitting in the sickness.
No question.
Yeah.
Just a suggestion,
I,
different
I,
ways
I
to
think
come
that's
at this
pretty
thing.
cool. There's someone I'm probably going to do a second set with, and I think maybe I'll do it with them.
It's awesome to do it that way.
Yeah.
You're doing your 4 and 5 right there. You're getting them right into
Yeah.
going home to pray and meditate, and then we're boom into defects. And with that conversation, that space being so close together, it's like you see them again and they're like, hey, you know what? I totally forgot about this. I need to get this out, because you've built that trust too immediately in that meeting.
Yeah. I that's quite an exciting prospect. Wow, this is a really great episode,
Not
guys.
that step 4 or 5 was a topic, but I figured if we were going AWOL, I
It's
might as
part of
well
it.
clear the ship.
I feel like this is just wonderful. You
Well,
got
I
something
think
to
those are
say,
the. Sorry.
BW? No, I
Well,
wanted you to talk now, so it's perfect.
so I genuinely believe that those are two of the most freedom. Like that's freedom is. I mean, they're all part of the freedom, but I'd say 50% of the people I've worked with go MIA around 4 and 5. It's poof. So there has to be a certain kind of I don't know, at least appreciation for the wisdom of moving quickly and then fearless and thorough. Fearless and thorough was what my fellow said. He said, if you don't get this, there's no point in progressing. So, we took our time, but I could see the wisdom in trying to get it done.
Well, I just try to get rid of these stereotypes or whatever. Is I need a month for my floor. Like, it doesn't say that anywhere in the book, right?
No,
Bill and Bob were taking people through these steps in days,
exactly.
like
Yeah,
guys that have sat down and in 13 hours done a set of steps, right? Because they're like, I need to get this stuff out and deal with my
exactly.
inventory. So also too, like as a sponsor, it's so beautiful that I got to check myself too. If I'm asking somebody to check in with me and, be responsible to me, I better be doing the work myself in my own recovery. Like, am I meeting with my sponsor? Am I checking in? Am I doing this same level of work? Because
Yeah,
we don't graduate, right? We keep doing it. So and that's what's so beautiful too of having a sponsor is I've called my sponsor before and been like, hey, I'm struggling with this, or I don't really know how to maneuver this. And she can guide me too. So
of
it's really,
course. Beautiful.
It's man, what a wonderful conversation happening here today. Do we go into questions or are we just
yeah.
freewheeling it? What are we doing? Okay, I mean, I think Bryant, you're up for a question
Yeah.
to me if you've got some questions. I know you do.
Oh,
He's like,
um,
well, we bet on this one. But I think we should freewheel off the questions because it sure seems to be enriching my life today.
Maybe it's just he asked the question and then you answer, I chime in, we all just collectively
Yeah.
do
it
that.
happens. It seems to happen kind of natural. It's nice. Yeah, one of the things that came to mind, because I know for me, it's like one of the more deep gratitudes that I have is when I reflect on that person that helped me. I can reflect on the group as well, and I can reflect on the faces and the people that were like really important and like took time and or like met me where I was in that early stages up until now. But the question is like what do you feel like is there a real connection to gratitude when you think of the people that have helped you?
Oh gosh, so I think back first of all, like my first kind of sponsors in my heart are the entire staff at Options. Like I was vulnerable. I was like a little fetus who needed my diaper changed and my food and the diaper changed was my thoughts and the food was the steps and the program. And and quite quite honestly, you were one of them, dude. Like, I've always loved you and you were kind of like my 2 day a week morning bro. Like I would get up
I'm
early.
sorry, but it's just the visual of when you said you were one of them. I'm like, I can't picture Brian changing a grown man's
He
diaper.
would change
This
my
is great.
diaper if I really needed it. He's that kind of bro. He drinks fish water for his dad.
If we were told to change everyone's diaper, we would have.
I know. See, that's
Right.
exactly what I mean. So, I look back at gratitude with everybody from Options. And then, it's really cool. Like, my first sponsor was Quill in Kelowna there. And, like, it didn't work out with me and Quill to be a sponsor, but I have always loved Quill's message. He carries a strong message. He has a really good understanding. He rolls those steps in the moments of his life every day. And he's really good at sharing how he does that. And just last weekend, I went to my very first roundup ever in a Soyuz, and he was there. And it was awesome. Like there is nothing but gratitude on my side from that.
Yeah,
And you know what? He like even if he didn't continue with me, he's really happy that I'm still straight.
of
Like,
course.
I know, but it's just like I think you know what? I think some people will get butthurt when you're not your sponsor anymore. Like
Fair enough.
and he doesn't have that. It's not. It's like, whoa, you're still straight. That's amazing.
Yeah,
Definitely.
because he's not
Because
bringing
normally
his
when a
ego into
sponsee
it.
disappears, he's like most of them disappear into going back out.
Yeah,
you know?
that's a good point.
And then my current sponsor now, like, man, I have nothing but gratitude for him. Like, I just call him some days because I'm like, man, I got overwhelming love for you for this and that. And then we'll just go off on another conversation. But yeah, so there's absolutely gratitude for those who have helped me. And also, too, there's inside all the meetings that I attend, there's always a couple people who are like my little hearts. Like, I go in and I know that we're going to either talk recovery or just love each other and be grateful to see each other. And those
Very
moments
nice.
are really valuable in my heart too, because it makes me feel part of, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it's really important. Sorry if I'm interrupting. Go
No,
ahead.
I was actually just finishing. So rock and roll in, Mister.
Shannon, do you want to give her?
No, you go ahead and then I can.
I was just thinking what you have to also too like pay a little bit of respect to how like the higher power works, because if we that's why they say no human power, because if we rely on humans without limitation, then we're in big trouble, because like some of the greatest influences can have their own setbacks in life. And like if we look at the external in the lives of the people that have helped us in our internal journey, then like we could be easily distracted by the facts of life. Like there's going to be ups and downs, there's going to be people that are on top and come back down. The key to everything is to admire like somebody's genuine personhood. Like, is the quality of that person staying the same through the storms? Like if you like you could have a lot of frailty in human beings. So I think even if one person plants one or two seeds in you, and those grow, beautiful. Like you don't always have to get all of it from the same resource over and over again. So I like to see how um that whole spirituality can come in so many different ways, and you have to almost keep your eyes peeled to remember like all the little different places you can get your nourishment from.
I still use phrases and knowledge from Quill all the time,
Yeah.
even though that has moved on, And one of the greatest things that I feel like I learned from him, he was real particular that gratitude is an action.
Hmm.
You know, he's like, man, he's like, you want to show gratitude in all your life. Like, go feel that sun on your face if you're grateful it's a sunny day. Go walk your dogs because you love them if you say you love your dogs. Or do something nice for that family member, or tell them, like make them feel that you love them through an action, not just through some word.
No question.
He's like, our words are fucking useless. Like, like our words are cheap, especially when we're starting recovery.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, I felt like that was one of the greatest things. And also, too, just, rationalization and resentments. And that was another thing, but I'm not going there. Okay. Go, Shannon.
I know who you're speaking of, and like I've heard him speak and share, right? And he has a beautiful message, and the way that he ties that into practicality, I think is unreal. And you said like he was understanding, right? Like that's what it's about. If you don't have ego in your soul, purpose is to see that person recover,
Right.
and get out of that hopeless state of mind. He said, like, he cared more about, hey, I want to see you do well. If it's not with me, then it needs to be with somebody else, right? Like, there was no ego
Yeah.
to that. And that's what I've learned too, right? Like, I've had sponsees that have gone to work with someone else, and it's like, okay, great,
Definitely.
as long as I keep seeing you back here, then my work is done, right?
That's right. And it may
Not
have had a
everybody's
huge
going to be
impact.
the right fit. Like it's a relationship at the end of the day. And, you know, one of the biggest gifts to me is when I came back, I walked into my home group and was like, I was pretty beat up, right? Very obviously very leveled and humble. And someone that I'd worked with in earlier days came up to me and she was like, you know what, Shannon, you just need to do the same thing you told us. And
Cool.
like that was so cool, right? Like that was a really
Ooh,
pivotal moment for me. Like she hugged me and she was like, "You told us, you know what to do. Like you told us, like just." And
boomerang.
I was like, "Wow, it's that simple." But it was just so profound that it was like a full circle moment that somebody that I'd worked with and helped was there helping me.
It's amazing. There this oh, so there's the two things. There's this whole like the order. It's like, you know, you came back and someone that you helped, like, you can be just like us if you do the right thing, Shannon. No, she's saying like the solution is the solution. You know what it is. It's good to see you. You're loved. It's not the greatest thing. Like if you try to take credit for anything in this process, you have not had a spiritual awakening. I don't mean to be rude.
No, you're bang on, because it's our higher power that's leading us through this.
You
Right?
can't take credit. You admitted defeat. The defeated man can't take credit for the solution, or woman.
Ooh.
Because the solution that was given to me, I'm giving to someone else, right? Like none of us are the creators or originators of it.
Yeah, it can't be something that, yeah, it has its own value outside of, it's a fact.
I love that.
There was, I'm going to tell this little story because it's such a beautiful story. There was a lady, 32 years, who came on this podcast who had relapsed.
Yeah.
After 32 years, she relapsed because she overcommitted on service and wore herself down.
That's real.
And that made her really, honestly, in her words, just not vigilant and exhausted. And she ended up isolating. I think it was like a month or maybe more than a month in her house. And she was like, ended up relapsing on alcohol so she could dial a bottle, not leave her house. You know, she's retired age or whatever, didn't have to go out to work. And, you know, finally one day, one of her sponsees shows up and says, okay, come to a meeting. And she's like, no chance. She's like, okay, well, come and get your nails done with me. Like, you look like shit. You haven't left the house. Let's just at least make you feel good about yourself, you know? Like, so she agreed to go to the nails. And then then the sponsee brings her back and she says, just promise me a week from now, you'll come to a meeting with me. I'm going to start crying. But the next Saturday, all of her sponsees from forever showed up and took her.
That's so dope. Oh
Like,
my God.
Wow.
That is the circle of this program.
It is, and it's a circle. And what she said is, you know, exactly like when I shared my story, I'd overcommitted. I was a yes to everything. Was working with a lot of women. I was, you know, part of a roundup. I was this, I was that. I was doing all these things except for what I needed to do every day for me. And my recovery went out the window while trying to help somebody else with theirs. And also then it built into a resentment, right? Like it's a ricocheting effect. And I was burnt out. So I'm like, I'm taking a little break. But I didn't realize you can't just take a break like that and stop doing everything. I could have said, hey, you know, I'm not taking more sponsees right now. I need to step back, but still look after my program. And I didn't. And that's what led me to, you know, having to go back out and come back in. But like that is so beautiful. And that's what happened to me when I went to my first meeting after my relapse. It didn't take for me, you know, I had to learn to get a little bit more pain. But when I showed up to that meeting, so many people that I loved and that I'd either worked with or were part of my circle were all in that parking lot. Like, we're going in with you, you know, and that's that circle. Like, it's so beautiful. We need each other.
It is.
That's
amazing.
Absolutely. Did you answer your question, Bryant?
No,
I'm not sure.
Think I did.
I think you should.
I don't even. About how you feel about people that have helped you. Is that it?
Yeah.
Man, that was a pretty
got a hairy God box.
Yeah, Harry. See, it's like that man has no idea. On. He has no idea how much I appreciated sitting beside him. Like, and he would just, I don't know what it was, you know, I like picked a seat, you know, I was like, I'm just going to sit here. And this is like another intimidating moment. It's like all these older, like very established in their lives in sobriety people. And like, this guy just starts talking to me. We ended up, you know, up until COVID, because he basically stayed away after that because he was very old. And prior to that, he would just drop little nuggets into my head, you know, like nuggets of gold. But he was the guy that like set it straight for me. He's like, if he was one of the credit people, he's like, he'd always remind me, like, you're not going to be the one that does it. It's not going to be you. It's going to be like you being open and willing or you know, available. One of these types of things. It won't be you that does it. And he just kept reminding me, it's not me. So I don't know. Anyway, he's one guy that had an impact that I'm grateful to, and many others. I still think forever I'll be grateful to like, for me it was the coolest thing in the world. I'll just break down my first like week. I went to a meeting. There was like 100 people. My best friend came with me. So first of all, I've gotten very emotional thinking about that. One of my best friends in this world, he came with me to that meeting. He was like, dude, you don't have to go alone. And he doesn't have an issue with this type of stuff. So that already was like my higher power showing up for me. And then they asked if anybody had a desire to stop, and I got up and I walked to the front in front of all these people, and it was like terrifying. It wasn't like 5-10 people at a meeting, not that it should matter, but my ego still had me like really like in a headlock. So I was like, I went up. To this day, I believe that if my friend hadn't come with me, if I hadn't got that chip, the next step was that this lady, such an awesome lady, she was the librarian for the group, and she like gave me her number and was like, here's a guy's number, he's going to take you to your next meeting. And I was like, whoa. And then this guy Jason took me to my next one, and then that's where I met the wife, who was the wife of my sponsor. And it was just like bing, bing, bing. And if I hadn't said yes to every one of these things, and then I met that fellow at a Starbucks, and he's like, do you want to go to any length to get the solution? And I was like, yes. And then he's like, meet me on Thursday and buy this book. And I was like, okay. And then I bought the book, and then I met him. And then he's like, we're meeting on Sunday, and you're going to start sweeping up cigarettes. And I was like, and then it just went from there. And it's like every little thing, and I can see their faces, and I remember how it felt. And like, and then there's like, all the other people, and like how every good thing that's happened in the last decade has been fully bloomed from the decision to admit defeat. I don't know.
I love
Yeah.
that.
Beautiful.
So I'm very
I love
grateful.
that.
Very, very grateful. And there's a lot more, but yeah.
Just like divine intervention throughout your whole process, right? And
It kind of is.
You just kept
Say
showing
again?
up.
Between you guys, I've never told you this. I like quite literally, like I went to meet a friend during like a bit of a challenging time, and he mentioned something about options, and I reached out to our boy Adam, and like that's how I ended up there. It was all HP. Like it wasn't some like it was all HP, and it was all through sobriety. Like it doesn't exist without it. In fact, it came almost like to me. Like I still had to take a step, obviously, and I had to go and interview, and I had to have the education and all that. But like at the end of the day, it happened through just, I don't know, higher power stuff, I guess.
That's amazing. And
Love that.
we're the three of us are sitting here now because of that.
Exactly.
Like what a crazy little journey life is that way.
I watched this incredible. Can I just quickly add it quickly? I watched this incredible.
No, you can do it slowly. Sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly.
I think it's Colombia. I can't remember, but there's this like tribe and a documentary. So basically, I forget they were like, it's actually Chicago. Like you probably remember Ace Ventura, and they say like Chicago. I don't know if you remember that.
No, but anyway.
They actually call it that, and it's the word they use for like the thread of like the spirit in life. And what they did is they took this little golden line, and they showed how the ecosystem in the area had been depleted over the years. Like, so basically, they were trying to find out why the ecosystem, because they lived off the land, and obviously like there was all this development happening around them, but they were still trying to live in their like natural environment. And so they had this incredible way of showing, but they took this little gold thread and they took it all through the ecosystem from the sea up to the top of the mountain. And they basically showed how there was a lake at the top of this mountain, and I forget what happened, but they dammed part of it. Something happened where human beings dammed part of it. And then they said this used to be where all this stuff would happen, and like animals and things. And then they went down, and then they showed how they had built like a resort at the sea. And they basically showed how human beings developing around this natural environment, and how they were like blocking the golden thread from the sea to the top of the mountain. And they showed how, like, just because of this and this whole ecosystem has died. And it's the same thing with this. Like it's a thread, and we just mentioned how like it all is a thread. It's still there, like the thread from whoever helped us, whoever helped them. It's this little golden thread that like creates the whole ecosystem to function properly, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I love that.
I don't know where that came from, but
I think it came from your
Beautiful.
mind. Yeah. Um, okay. My questions seem really silly now.
what?
I don't know. I feel like the conversation has been so rich. Um,
Shakaka.
Shakaka. Okay. Service clears the fog of self pity. It reorients us toward gratitude, purpose, and the present moment. How has helping someone else, Shannon, shifted your perspective when you were stuck in your own pain?
Ooh, a good question. Um, yeah, the gratitude portion of it is like there's just no better feeling, right? Than seeing somebody who comes in really hopeless and down and just stuck, start to have those aha moments and the lights come on for them and them feel like, hey, I can actually live a different way, right? And they
Yeah,
call and share about these wonderful things that are happening in their life, or even if they're calling and reaching out because they're in pain or they're struggling, right? They have a different solution now than to go out and numb that pain. So I'm super grateful that I can be a resource for that person. And also for me, like my mind and sitting and stuff is the worst place I can be, right? So if I start to experience some discomfort or pain or, just that kind of sick thinking, being able to reach out to someone else and vulnerably and honestly share and have that support back, like that's so beautiful. And it does give you a purpose, right? Like when you've had that spiritual awakening and you've had a complete shift in your thinking and the way that you're living, right? It's such a higher purpose to live that way and to continue on. But in order for me to do that, I have to give away what I have. Like that's how we keep this circle going and how we keep carrying the message strong. And it's not just like in the rooms and sponsorship, it's also like in my own personal life, right? Like
hmm,
giving selflessly to someone. And I feel good inside. I don't feel good when I'm doing something with an expectation because there's no joy brought around that. So I have a
I agree.
tremendous amount of gratitude in my life for, and it's this change of thinking of like, oh, I have to do this to, I get to do this.
Yeah, I remember you saying that.
That feels like I say that to myself often because even when I'm excited about something, my mind can shift and be like, oh, I'm tired, or why did I
Yeah,
do that? But it's like, hey, I get to do this. And, you know, we're just so selfish by nature, right?
yeah,
And it's underlying, like it's not even at surface level sometimes. It's like deep inside, it's what I'm telling myself is, "Ugh, why do I have to do this for that person? Or why did I commit to them? Or this is just not how I want to be spending my time. It's like, but they're so happy to be spending this, like even simple things. And I'm like, just shift the way you're thinking about this
definitely.
Absolutely.
and being responsible. Like we all have commitments. It's called being an adult. It's called growing up. Like I can't live my life doing only what I want all the time because that's not
Mm,
fulfilling anyways, right? Because it'll never be enough.
yeah,
But
that's true.
by interacting and loving people and being gracious and being grateful and like just being a whole part of society and contributing is really what it's about. It's like I've taken enough in my days. Like let's show up
Fair.
and give something because
Yeah,
what I get in
Mm,
return is so much better than any expectation I could have because I have that peace in my heart.
very well said.
absolutely. Wow, that was awesome. Mr. Bryant, would you like the question again?
Please.
Okay, service clears the fog of self pity. It reorients us towards gratitude, purpose, and the present moment. How has helping someone else shifted your perspective when you were stuck in your own pain?
Yeah, I think what it does is it puts an emphasis on kind of the hidden stuff, like the more hidden reality of life and lives and people. Is that, like, I think on a daily basis, whether through necessity or ambition, we go out and about into the world, and we try to let the world believe that we're like this or we're like that, but then like somebody will come your way and they're like, I'm really really not okay, and it's like, oh. And as sad as that is, it's like wonderful because we know this is true. Do you know what I mean? It's like,
Oh,
oh,
I'm not.
somebody who's finally admitting that they have a problem, you know? It's
Mm,
like, what a wonderful gift. And then uh I just think it's really neat to have been shown a process for something as serious as this that actually is quite simple. The psychology behind it all, you could go on and on and on, but you don't really have to understand all the psychology for it to work. So, in other words, as long as you understand it and you take somebody through something the exact same way you were shown and it's worked, that should give it a very good opportunity to work. And then there's the higher power, and like there's so much of it that, like, that lady at the library that gave me her number, who gave me the guy's number, who took me to the meeting, like that was all just nature. Like that didn't require schooling. That was literally just human nature. And that to me is like, you always have to give room and space, like alleviate the pressure on yourself, and allow that higher power stuff to happen too, you know. Like the spiritual program, the reason it works the way it does is because there's magic. Like it's actual magic, you know. Like it's not, and that's not I'm not even saying that to sound clever. Like there's so much that happens. Think about the people who was like, I had three friends show up on my porch that morning. Like, what? Or or like the sponsee showing up for that lady. Like, that's insanely beautiful. Uh think about that. And like nobody planned it. It's like, well, human beings are involved, but I just think it's really important to show up for someone, but let the rest of the magic happen, because like you have no idea. Somebody could have a conversation with their mom that needed to happen that hasn't happened in 30 years, you know? Like there's so many things that happen without us. We are always limited in what's happening. So we only see what we see. Oh, the sponsee didn't show up. Oh my God, the whole thing's going down the tube. You never know. They might get a little nudge from their best friend, be like, I thought you were supposed to meet your sponsor. Like, you have no idea, and you'll never know that, right? So, like, always give space for the higher power. But, like, yeah, I think the question, I went off way over here, but the fact is, like, I'll just be straight with you guys. Working at that recovery center, and having the few gentlemen in my life that I was helping at that time, I would suggest were life-saving forces during one of the hardest times that I've been through. And I've been told just recently, I had no idea, but my sponsor that was helping me the last 3 years, he wasn't entirely honest with what he was struggling with when he was helping me. And he said that him and I having our like communication throughout the week was an incredibly helpful thing for him too. So we never know what's going on. Even though we think we're being helped or we're the helper, we can't always see the magic. Like it could be doing so much more than we even realize, you know? Yeah.
that's amazing. I love that. Woo! Man, you guys are sizzlers, man. You guys are like water splashed in bacon grease. I love it. Service clears the fog of self pity. It reorients us toward gratitude, purpose, and the present moment. How has helping someone else shifted my perspective when I was stuck in my own pain? So, big thing that I keep talking about, but it's kind of true for me, is trying to practice gratitude in all moments. Like, and I've been really implementing that into my prayer for the last month, and I know that Bryant's only heard this about 10 times this week, but it's been really making some miracles in my own recovery and my day to day moments, and so like the fact that self pity and gratitude don't exist in the same moment, I think is a definite point that doesn't happen for me. And so, I was listening to this thing recently where the speaker was talking, and like we're going to get all these negative thoughts in our brain, like over and
Oh
over
yeah.
and over and over and over, and we're not to fight against them. We're to surrender those, but start saying the gratitudes as a way to train ourselves that that's what gets said. It,
Well said.
and so when you start to do that, you will inevitably start to think more positive thoughts. And and then when you have those positive thoughts, you're not in those other negative states. So it's a pretty freaking amazing thing. While you guys are talking, you ever get like when other people are answering, you guys ever have this? It happens to me all the time. I come up with this like profound response. I was like ready to drop the mic. I'm like, I'm feeling spiritual, and then it gets to me, and I'm like, "Now, what was that?" But okay. So, how has helping someone else shifted my perspective when I'm stuck in my own pain? We are really shown by society that we need more. Like
Yes.
everything is like consumerism. It's like you'll be happy when you have more of what we tell you will make you happy. Like it's so implanted into us with commercials, advertising, movies, everything. It's like, like you're going to be
We
happy.
also do it to each other constantly.
Well, of course we do, but we're just
Yeah.
we're playing roles we've seen. Like
Yeah, that's right.
how many times does a grade school person write a love letter like they saw in a movie and think that that's supposed to give them this magical walk in the park with a girl, and you're going to hold hands and like skip down the hill and get that magical kiss, and then you're going to be in love forever. Like I mean that, like there's so many lies that we have
Yeah.
planted into us, and none
Yeah.
of them are like, you'll be happy if you give it all away. Not a single one. There is not a single one. Like when we come into this program, we're literally fighting against our entire stream of consciousness for every waking moment that we open our eyes and ears to the rest of society. Like it's a
Yeah.
complete like and so, but the crazy thing is it doesn't take very much service to start seeing all those lies. Like it doesn't
That's
take
true.
it doesn't take very much for us to be like, whoa, I had it completely wrong.
That's
Like
true.
for me, I was just like, woohoo, Nelly, I I see the light because I got
Mm.
recovery fever. I'm burning up. Shannon, could you pass me a towel? Because I'm burning up. I'm like, I can barely see. I'm sweating so much from this fever. But so for me, every time I help somebody, like really had some moments with a sponsee in the last month and a half that were profoundly touching to me because truth be told, this is a life or death disease, and when someone's
Yeah.
really struggling and you get to spend time on their path to survival. I don't know, man. It's like being out in a boat in a really big storm on the ocean here in Canada and making it home alive. Like if you've never been scared shitless on a boat in cold water, like there's a sense of unity when you get back to shore, where only the
Yeah.
people on that boat know about that survival. And
Yeah.
and Andrew there, one of the co-hosts on this program, he's like, you know, we what is it? He always says we act like we're survivors of the same near-death catastrophe because we are, and we are, and it's something that outsiders don't understand. But for people who aren't involved in any service, you don't see it because
That's another very good point. Like, yeah.
yeah, go.
Well, just like a lot of the other things that we become grateful for, um, just because you don't struggle with addiction or alcoholism, like would some of these things be very good for everyone.
Mhm.
Like we do service to save our life, or we do it because we see the wisdom in it. But how many people don't have a life or death situation that would benefit greatly from doing a bit of service? Like imagine.
Yeah, the world would be a different place
A
entirely.
lot of people do, so that has to be addressed. But so many don't.
So many never do.
Yeah,
Like, people can get so caught up in their own acquisition plans
of course.
that
Look at
there's
how
no
upset
room for
people.
service. There's no room for service. They're
Look,
doing jobs that occupy way too much of their life, and they're indebted to it.
look how upset people get if you walk in front of them in a lineup, or if you like cross into their lane driving. Like people, we don't love each other. People are willing to like literally throw you in a ditch if you walk in front of them. Like there's a lot of room for improvement with humanity. If we think, you know, there's a lot of room for service.
Well, every moment is an opportunity for service, literally. You know?
Yes.
Wow. Has anybody told you this morning that they love you? I bet you I'm the first one. Crack of dawn, early morning love. Oh,
Nobody.
Love
woo,
you too.
I love you guys. And
Love both of
man,
you.
woo, like I'll tell you, these conversations together, they just like raise the hairs on my recovery fever. Woo, I'm like burning up. Now, Shannon, do you have a question for Mr. Bryant?
Mhm. I love this topic of service and everything that we shared today. So, is I'm a big advocate, and I spoke about this of what I do in the rooms, I need to do outside of the rooms in all areas of
Mm,
my life. So, how would you say, Brian, that you show up as a means of service in other areas of your life, and where do you feel like you're lacking a little bit and could improve on?
that's a great question. Um, the first thought that came to mind is like how easy it would be to like promote yourself in this question. But I'll be straight. I'll be straight. I try my best even in like the world. Like if I see something that I think I could be somewhat, if I could help you, I do it in my neighborhood. I've done it with family. If to answer the improvement part, some of the more challenging relationships, I still would like to be more present and potentially helpful too, but I have to like be somewhat mindful of time spent and or like exposure to some of the more challenging relationships. But I would like to be there more. I could improve that, I think. I could probably consider taking on a more I don't know, more time consuming role in the program. I have done things like GSR and whatnot. Couple year commitment there, but I mean, again, I've heard several people talk about that overextension. I've heard a few gentlemen talk about how they got wrapped up in the service tornado and ended up getting like tossed out and not knowing like what happened, even though they were doing like the thing that they thought or had been like kind of bringing them a lot of um, health. It started getting kind of like they got wrapped up and twisted in overextending themselves in service. But let me see. I don't know. Yeah, always there for friends and family. I tend to kind of be pulled into the emotional, psychological side of my relationships. I try to be available, and maybe I've overdone that at times. Um, it's a really good question. One thing I'm grateful. I'm glad that I have tried to and have sponsored some people, because I think that'd be a really easy thing to not do, and it's been brought to my attention that a lot of people don't. And I don't think that necessarily means that somebody wouldn't have long term or healthy and quality sobriety or cleanliness, but I do think that it's a really cool thing to do. Like working with an individual, I think group work and like showing up for your group and showing up for these meetings is like very wonderful, but I do think that that one-on-one stuff is pretty special. I think you can get like an infusion of the step 12 that you can't get in any other way. I think that that's where you get like the really, really nice, um, the meaning behind that one. And that's what I think comes to mind for that question. Thank you.
Thanks,
I love that.
Brian. There's nothing wrong with an emotionally available man. In fact, I think that is such a strong skill and
Hmm.
so beautiful to have, right? And you show that, like I remember from my time at Options, like even just in the morning, like speaking to you, right? You just have a presence about you and an energy that's very warm and puts people at ease. So that's a
Thank you.
strength you have, and being able to be emotionally available to receive people's feelings and to hold space for someone and not give judgment, like that's beautiful, right? And that's definitely like it's something that you should wear like a badge of honor. More
Wonderful.
people
Thank you.
understand to have that in life, right?
I thank you for saying that. Yeah.
I was gonna make him a ball cap because he always wears the cap on the show instead of a badge.
A ball cap of
A
honor.
cap, a cap of honor.
Yeah,
It'd be like a beret.
it can just say
Right.
EA on it. And when people are like, is that Emotions Anonymous? Be like, no, that's me letting women and men know I'm emotionally available. This is a safe space.
Oh my god!
EA.
If I ever see like one of those places that stitches berets, he's getting EA.
Well, it's like I found that group before that was like Emotions Anonymous, and I was like, maybe I should join this one too, you know? I was like,
I didn't know that existed.
it does, yeah. There's not a lot of the meetings, but it does exist, and I think it's cool too.
Most
Probably
people
ties a
aren't
lot
available
into
for it.
codependency too, right? But
Yeah.
yeah, Team
Cool.
EA, love it.
I
Well,
like that EA.
Yeah,
yeah. Oh
hard
my
shell,
gosh.
soft heart. Let's go, right?
Yeah.
We should have
Trample
that on
all
the
over me.
episodes. Episodes Team EA topic service. Okay,
Okay.
could you repeat the question, please, Shannon?
I sure can. So we talk about service, and um, what I was asking is what you do in the rooms, does that mimic how you show up in other areas of your life? Would you say that you are doing service in all areas of life? And if not, where are some areas of opportunity for you?
So, about 5 years ago, I had a pretty profound meeting with Rick Hansen. And actually, like 4 years ago, the tattoo I got says, "I'm grateful for the privilege to help and serve," before I even knew about the program. So service was always in my heart. And in fact, my like retirement plans were to dedicate my life to service before I even hit this program. So service, like it's been super dear in my heart. And I've been privileged. Like some people see real estate as sales, and I see it as service. And so one of the things that, recently really, um, I try to show up as service, that grateful for the privilege to help and serve. That's in my gratitude list right at the start of the day, just to remind me that I'm getting the privilege to help and serve somebody and to keep my mindset, even in the most frustrating situations with clients, that I'm there to serve them and not, meet my expectations of what they should do. And so,
Hmm.
like I find myself constantly having to like step back, pause, and remind myself. So, like as an area of improvement, as part of your question, it's that, to become quicker at reminding myself of those moments. I mean, I just had something occur yesterday. Like I was in the middle of trying to get this offer with people that, maybe didn't have very realistic expectations of what the reality was. And and I realized about three-quarter the way through, I'm like, first of all, my expectations of what was going to happen weren't being met. So I was like borderline resenting. But I realized, I'm like, I haven't educated them. Like I haven't done the right service in order for them to see exactly the error in their assumptions. And so then I spent about an hour and a half talking with them, and also though providing like much more historical evidence than what I did to say, hey, like every seller's going to think that their place is at least average, and look at here's what occurred for all the places that have been sold in these different complexes. I'm like, so none of them are going to be having the expectation that you are. And I'm like, I'm sorry I didn't supply this earlier because
Mhm.
it has created a false expectation on your part that you were
Mhm.
going to be able to do something that just isn't going to happen this year. Like might have happened 10 years ago, but it won't happen now.
Mhm.
And I have a pledge to my clients. I'm like, I will write you a loser offer, but I will never pretend I think it's going to win. Like, and they don't like that. They don't like that, but they love it by the end because they see
Mhm.
that I'm telling them the truth if they choose not to make sense with me. So that was kind of a long-winded story, but I think it shows a few things that, first of all, um, we have to look at how we're providing service because we might not be providing what they need at the time. And it's okay to course correct inside service.
Yeah.
Like it's okay to be like, hey, whoa, sorry, you know, making amends. And my living amends is by giving better service after, you
Yeah.
know? And, and right now we have three older parents here and there's some really trying times going on. And, I am literally in service every day with my family.
Mhm.
And it's not a burden. It is a privilege, but it's hard. It's also hard to watch people suffer that you love, you know,
Yeah.
and that's a level of acceptance that I haven't got past the pain point on yet. Like I understand that it is part of life, but it just
Sure.
in this day and age, it just doesn't seem like that needs to be happening. You know,
Mhm.
Like what you said about like this isn't a burden, it's a privilege because like that can get very overwhelming, right? Like what you're
Mhm.
currently living, what your day-to-day life looks like with like taking care of people that aren't well. And I think of it from their perspective too. Like these are independent people that have raised kids and had careers and built lives, and now they're fully dependent on someone else, whether it be a doctor, a caretaker, or whatnot. So, there's lots of challenges around that. And I just think it's beautiful that you and Michelle are doing what you are to look after your parents.
yeah, thank you. And
Definitely.
and that's one of the things is that like we really have wonderful parents that have provided service for us for
Oh yeah.
53 and 57 years respectively. And like, for me, it wraps right back to gratitude being in action. My gratitude for what they've done to enrich our lives is the service we now provide. And that's it.
Mm.
Like that's I remember being a little kid. I remember being a little kid. We didn't have my dad and my mom working so hard, and I said, Mom, when you get older, I'm going to take care of you. I remember making that promise when I was like 7 or 8 or something like that.
Mhm.
Yeah. So it's always been there in my mind.
Yeah.
I think that I'm finished on that one. But hey, you know what? I
Nice.
still love you guys a lot. Like I think a lot. Like, there's a big pile. There's a
Sweet
big pile of
person.
love.
I'm in the not a lot of time left zone.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. Well,
Do we want
Shannon,
to
do you
have?
want to answer your question though?
Oh, sorry.
sure, that's okay. Yeah, it's not lengthy or anything.
Yeah.
Um, Sometimes it comes down to just as little as being patient, right?
Oh
Yeah.
yes.
When someone
Oh.
can be in a drive-through, it could be in a store or, in a restaurant. It's like, hey, so I'm sorry, I'll be right with you. And it's quick decision. I could be like impatient and like, oh, I gotta go, or yes, no problem, right? And that sets the tone for that person too, right? Because if I give negative
It's true.
energy, that puts them in a negative headspace and like just spirals, right? So just showing that patience and grace and that split second of, you know, saying the right thing rather than the thing that I'm going to regret after. Because whenever I am impatient or I'm like, "Ugh," negative, like I feel gross inside after,
No
and
question. Well said.
I don't want to be that way. So, yeah, my career, another colleague reaches out and needs help with something, I'm always available. And it's in a selfless way because it's been shown to me too, right?
Mm.
And I want to be that person, right? Like God and Jesus, like we're Christian, like it's all about giving and helping, right? And that's a privilege that I get to do today. And I like what you said about work too, Milan, because though we are, in sales, it's like
It's not really sales.
someone asked me like, how would you say you're a good salesperson? I'm like, never being a salesperson, right? But
Yeah.
like, I want to build a relationship. I want to offer a service. I want to enrich someone's business and in their life and their livelihood. So just coming at it from that and like really, really focusing on gratitude, like that's what gets me through everything. And being able to show up for
Boom.
my family and, my partner,
Yeah.
that's huge, huge, huge.
Yeah.
That was beautiful as usual, Shannon. That's amazing. Fishbone, do you have some final comments?
Fishbone, I just saw the name change.
Uh,
You're
well,
like
it's
a
interesting.
sniper with that.
I'm
I
joking.
liked it. I
Silent
actually
sniper, I
giggled
love it.
out of nowhere.
I,
Strangely, I found it challenging to come up with questions. I'm very grateful for the conversation. I think, as usual, a lot of really cool. I like how we can all relate to one another, because a lot of these topics, uh, they embody sort of like the whole thing, but we can focus on that aspect, but it embodies the whole thing. Like, and I like that happens when we're chatting, and I'm grateful to know that you two and myself have benefited so much from being blessed to have been helped by others, and that the three of us seem to be willing to pass that on, because I think that's the whole thing, and yeah, just remember the faces and the places that have brought you wellness. That's what I try to do. Oh, I I'm just gonna say it. I think the better the relationship you have with the higher power, the better relationship you have with yourself, which is the better relationship you have with everyone else. That's it.
and I couldn't picture this program with like, first of all, this program would not continue without sponsorship. If people just had to read the book, it would be like that whispering the sentence in the ear in a circle, and it would die within a few decades. Because without sponsorship, you wouldn't have the magical interpretation of those precious words. People would just see what they want to see and start stepping out the way they wanted to step out.
Yeah.
100%. That's one of
Yeah,
the first times I like saw that, hard drinker in the book. I
yeah,
remember asking my sponsor, like, is there any chance that's me? And she was
Oh,
like,
definitely.
absolutely not, based on what you've shared with me. But if
yeah,
I was doing this on my own, I'd be like, you know what? This actually kind of fits me a bit more, right?
yeah.
Man,
I would take
I'm
what
just
I
having a
want,
bad week.
take what I wanted, go so yeah, just a bad decade.
Oh,
And
I played with that for a while. Heavy drinker. I'm definitely a heavy drinker.
and then I would find
Yeah.
any like one sentence that didn't apply to me and be like, that's not me, rather than the, pages that did.
Yep.
Yeah, the
I
no
think
well said, yeah.
and it also for myself, the enrichment to my program and my life that sponsorship has given me. Like having to turn and explain information that I've been gifted with from others makes me learn it twice as good.
It
Well
just
said.
makes me laugh. Like I was picturing a bunch of us sitting around doing our own
Yeah,
character defects,
Yeah.
without speaking to someone else and being like,
I don't
nah.
think any of it's my part. I'm pretty sure it's all you guys. And look at how clean my slate is.
And let me leave that out because that's just not a good feeling or a good memory for
Yeah,
me.
we don't need to go
Oh
that
yeah.
deep.
Selfish, not me. I buy rounds for my friends at a bar, so that doesn't
Yeah,
apply.
you're so generous. The
Yeah.
the the amends definitely would have included I'm not leaving until you apologize to me.
Yeah, I know. It's like, how about we sweep both sides of the street at once and save time?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Amends. No, I'd probably, gloss it
No.
over with a family
No.
member.
Yeah,
That'd be
I
about
don't think
it.
so. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I love you guys. And I think so. Tune in next episode for more recovery fun. Bye bye, everybody.
Everybody.
We love you
Bye.
so much. Please help us help others. If you like what you've seen here today, please subscribe and share this podcast and help us get to 100 followers. We're looking for interaction with our audience. So please email recoveryfreedomrising@gmail.com or contact Milan South Okanagan Starcic on Facebook with questions, topic suggestions, or just comments. We'd love to hear from you.